Have you began the journey to step into your confident self, but yet those around you are now claiming that you've come off as arrogant? If this sounds like you better listen further. This was a major hurdle for me when I first began the work to overcome my low self esteem and low self confidence. Many of the people around me, including my closest friends and family, started making remarks and subtle comments that I was coming off as arrogant or cocky or seemingly too full of myself. I began to lose hope. I got inside my own head and I started digging myself back down the hole that I worked so hard to dig myself out of. I just couldn't understand. Why was it that the harder I worked on myself, the more resistance I seemed to get from everyone around me? About a year ago, when I was working at my day job selling fitness equipment, my boss had come into the store and I could see that he was a little bit out of the sorts. I asked him what was up, and he proceeded to explain to me that he had a regular customer call into him and basically give a complaint that I came off as too arrogant to be in sales. Hearing this floored me. I quite literally felt defeated. All that hard work that I have been doing for years basically just felt like I threw it out the window. I tried to shake this feeling, but the more that I fought it, the worse it got. I started feeling like a failure again. Those crushing thoughts of why even bother? I'm just worthless. And what's the point? All came flooding back tenfold. For a while, I even debated just owning the prejudice of being a jerk douchebag and living my life that way for the rest of it. Later that week, I was fortunate to have a coaching call booked with my mentor, where I was able to explain to him everything that happened in detail. Basically, all of the family comments, the friends that have been making the comments, and now the customers at my place of work commenting that I am too arrogant for selling fitness equipment. Now, my coach is a wonderful guy. He was able to get me to step back and actually look at the entire situation in a completely different shade of light. This was actually a very monumental moment in my life where my perspective changed substantially on the entire situation. With the enlightenment granted to me by my coach, I began to study. I researched and researched all on the psychology of humans and why perspective has such a weird connotation between confidence and arrogance. What the hell was the difference? I began to do more direct research on human psychology, human habits, and how these actually intertwined with self-confidence. Unfortunately, what I found was the absolute vast majority of people struggle with low self-confidence, low self-esteem, and limiting beliefs. So when these individuals converse with somebody who is confident, a lot of their own negative beliefs will actually pull themselves into a place of vulnerability. To defend themselves in this state, these individuals can or may just default into assuming that the individual in front of them is actually arrogant instead of just confident. This is actually a defense mechanism. This is a form of a mental band-aid to help pull themselves out of that vulnerable state. Essentially just making excuses as to why they themselves aren't confident or neglecting to put in the self-work. This holds a lot of truth in the fitness industry as well. Being that most of my background stems from being a previous gym owner, personal trainer, and competing in numerous sports, most of my peers were a part of this walk of life. Think of it this way. How many people do you know started up working out, taking care of themselves because they loved themselves? Honestly, I don't know many. Most of the people that I know started in the fitness industry because they either wanted to gain weight, lose weight, or the doctor told them to go because they had a health issue. Yes, granted, there are athletes that do need to maintain their performance in the off season, but I still consistently hear negative comments towards themselves because they need to be better than someone else instead of focusing on just being a better version of they were yesterday. I know this to be true because I was one of those athletes. All of this self reflection, fully learning what true confidence actually was and the difference it was from arrogance, led me to the place where I could fully take back and own my self confidence, no longer concerning myself with the fear of others' opinions. All of this self reflection, fully learning what the true difference between self confidence and arrogance actually was, led me to the place where I could fully take back and own my self confidence and bury that self limiting belief that I was an arrogant douchebag once and for all. No longer was I fearing the opinions of others. The difference between self confidence and arrogance actually has everything to do with empathy. Confident people are self assured and possess this inner peace and tranquility about themselves that comes from an appreciation of qualities in ourselves and others. Even when they've been knocked down, they still lift others up, shining a light on all friends, family members, teammates, or co-workers in all their achievements, in all of their glory. A truly confident person has absolutely no problem listening. They are completely aware that they don't know everything and are completely open to asking others for assistance, guidance, or input, encouraging teamwork, and generously praising their counterparts. Arrogance is categorized by having an exaggerated sense of oneself and their own abilities or importance, using condescending language, talking over people, or displaying body language that shows a complete lack of disinterest in anyone else. Often, they believe that they have nothing to learn from anyone, so they act as if they know everything, fighting to be right in every situation, and aiming to show others that they are wrong. Essentially, closed off to the views from the rest of the world. When they find themselves in a less than desirable position, excuses are often made. Instead of owning the fact that they were the ones that in fact made that mistake, they often talk about themselves to brag about their achievements, their own skills, or abilities. Essentially, placing themselves up on a pedestal where they then feel out of reach. Consciously or unconsciously, making those around them feel less important, with the notion that the world revolves around them. However, one of the most fundamental differences between confidence and arrogance is the fact that arrogance stems from a place of low self-esteem. This is the reason why arrogant individuals are boastful in conversations about their abilities and their accomplishments, all the while putting everyone else in a position of less importance. Whereas true self-worth, believing in one's own achievements and abilities without putting anyone else down, is true self-confidence. As I mentioned earlier, they lift others up. It's not about walking into a room and forcing or hoping that everyone in that room is going to love you. It's about walking into that same room and being completely okay if they don't. All right, guys, hit that subscribe button for tips on how to adopt the Wolverine lifestyle so you can overcome and conquer your vulnerability and step into your unshakable confident self for good. Thanks for watching.